Hello guys, Zert here, and welcome to another video. And as you can see, I have already fallen in love with the new snapshot. All I'm going to say about this one is, please do the copper campfires. We already have a copper torch and the lanterns, which I absolutely love. In fact, I'm blocking one of them. There we go. And the copper bars are just awesome. But yeah, we're missing the copper lantern. Anyways, the point of today's video is I am working on a data pack for my three-way comparator shelf functionality. Now, of course, I still want this in vanilla, but I decided why not just make it a data pack. So as you can see, all of my command blocks have been cleared, other than that one block. And I'll show you why I need that one block in a second. Actually, hang on, let me quickly show you real quick. So if I do this, oh, rendering spoke in this snapshot, lovely. Wait on this, no, rendering spoke. Anyways, so you have that. That is what happens with the repeating command block. But actually, let me but if I break the command block, you'll see that it's jittering on and off. So that's why I need a command block instead of using the tick command for the data pack. But now let me put the command block back on, and there we go, it's smooth again. So again, this data pack allows for more functionality in the shelf, specifically relating to comparators. And as of right now, there is the binary comparator signal that might be useful. I'm not sure, probably is, but well, and I like the idea, but I think this three-slot comparator thing would probably be a lot more useful. But of course, there's other ways to achieve this, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. So I should probably do F and F3. There we go. So right now this is power 1 because this is in the leftmost slot. And if you put the item in this slot, it's power 4, then power 6, yes, and then power 7 if I do this. Yeah, binary counter. Then, oh my goodness. Now, of course, I haven't tested this fully, but what I would assume is if I did this, there we go, you'll see that this is slowly going up in power as more and more items are added. And as a reminder, this comparator only reads from the left slot. This comparator reads from the middle slot, and the right comparator reads from the right slot. And that also works when you put this in other directions. So if I do this, actually let me grab a bunch of shells out. I think it's done there? Yeah. Let me do bamboo, why not? And then netherite, because I still haven't memorized axe, machado. Alright. So, as you can see, well, here, let me show you. So right now, this is just a normal shelf with the normal functionality. These three comparators will not turn on. I can prove it. Hang on. Game mode survival, because it's going to get annoying. there you go, you'll see that these don't turn on. But these will turn on once I've summoned the armor stand. So I can take these out and do that. And I have to go over here. It is a little annoying because there's an invisible armor stand in the way, but it works. So now here's some alternatives to this. By the way, I've made this data pack work with... Oh, right, I'm in survival mode. I've made this data pack work with every shelf type and in any direction. Unlike the thing that I showed last video, which is just in one direction and only half the time on one shelf type. So now, here's some other options for this. So if I come down here, you'll see I have this. And my other option is, let's put a shelf on the back of this barrel. This barrel can be any storage block. I just chose a barrel. But what I would want is, let's say we have 2 shells in this first slot. Then this comparator here would read this shelf and see that it has 2 items in its first slot, and then read the second slot. So the number of items in this first slot would be the number of, well, the slot number that the comparator would read. And then, of course, you can do other things with this, like, well, this is still 2 slots. But you can probably do other options for the comparator, like, put it on some sort of additive mode instead of subtractive mode, or something along those lines. Now, here's some cool things you can do with this. So let me set this back up real quick. Then let me do, actually no, I'm going to stay in creative mode. So if I do this, here's some applications. Okay, so this is the tile design that I came up with. That seems to work flawlessly. Now, of course, this isn't necessarily completely tileable, but yep, that is the tileable design. So if we put our item in here, it'll slowly go down. So the advantage to using this over hoppers is you don't need a bunch of excess filtering items that'll just stuff up your storage system. And of course, there's probably better ways to do this. That is, you could use this to, well, you could probably have a separate kind of comparator block that would allow you to choose which slot you're reading. Or you could say like the maximum number of items in all of the slots, or the minimum, or whatever. There could be a lot of settings for that. And this is, yep, this is a filter. I should also mention that you could probably do the same thing with chests and have a comparator that allows you to read the maximum amount of items in a slot. And if that item count goes below 3, well, goes below 4, then the hopper is enabled. And again, this can just be done by using this comparator block, this comparator specifically. You don't have to change any other block around. Oh yeah, and another thing. So last video I showed a hypothetical way for shelves to show what slot they were on. So as a reminder, I said maybe let's go to a different one. So the left slot can maybe go to slot 1 of inventory. This could maybe go to slot 7 and this to slot 9, or you can make this one maybe not swap with the others. So if you want these two to swap with certain slots and this not to swap, you can do this. Well, you can say 1, 7, and no swap. And here I've decided to actually go, let me get rid of the F3 screen because that's going to be annoying. Here I've decided to use block displays to simulate that in a much better way. So this is 1 slot, 2 slots, well, slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, slot 4, slot 5, slot 6, slot 7, slot 8, and then that slot 9 because there's not enough for a 9 slot, well, because there's not 9 squares. And then these two are a little bit different. This is for inventories. So if I had a whole bunch of these, you'd see how each slot here compares with a slot in my inventory. And these block states would either be inventory based or no swap at all. So that would mean, say you don't want this, say you don't want this slot to be swapped, the one with the target, the slot with the target in my inventory. So then you would just, that's correct. So then you would just you'd make this slot not be able to swap and have all the other slots be inventory swappers. And let's say you don't want that top slot to be swapped. Again, you can just do that. Now, of course, there's probably a bunch of other things I can do. Well, there's probably a bunch of other things you could do with this, a bunch of other combinations, stuff like that, but this is what I think would be useful, plus having the different hotbar slots. Now, this also involves changing your tools. So I'm going to pretend like these redstone things are my tools for a second. So you may want to only swap these slots when, say, your tools are broken, and swap these when you've run out of blocks. Or you can do the opposite and swap these when you have a bunch of blocks in your inventory that you need to empty out, and swap these when you want to put away your tools. So there's reasons for multiple different functionalities of the shelf, is what I'm trying to say here. So this is a golem with NoAI, and it still does animations. I love having the animations, I think that's awesome, but I would like a setting to be able to turn the animations off, as well as a way to have those eyes on the copper golem statue, which is not in English anymore. Let's see. Let me do that. So, if I put this right next to it, these eyes on here would be awesome, and that could maybe be done with a redstone signal. And maybe have other ways to change this golem's appearance, like moving its arms around. And right now, yes, you have these poses, but I would like more ways to see this move around, like the sitting pose. I absolutely love the sitting pose. I love all the poses, but we need ways to add more illusions of motion into our build. And this is awesome, but again, we need to be able to remove these animations. So another prime example of this animation removal is the horse. There we go. And you'll see that it does its head sinking animation and all that, and the tail. Having this statue perfectly still, I think would be very interesting for builds, as well as, say, like zombies and stuff like that. So, having statue mobs in survival that don't have these animations is basically what I'm trying to say. And of course, you could probably use some sort of command to make this guy's arm be out a little bit, or have this guy's leg be stretched out, or something like that. Now, of course, there's dozens of other mobs I can do this with, like I've worked with donkeys and camels before. Actually, let me do a camel real quick. So, yeah, as you can see, this is the head shaking in the wind. I actually kind of like this. I don't think this is something that would have to be removed if you use a statue. But, of course, there's probably a few other examples that I can think of that I just haven't thrown out yet. Ooh, an LA. The wings here wouldn't really be that, wouldn't really be expected on a statue if you're using these to, well, for statue-based purposes. So yeah, I'd like to see a way to freeze the animations of mobs with no AI. And of course, again, having comparators read specific slots instead of entire, well, a way to have these comparators read specific slots instead of entire blocks. So, with that, thanks for watching, thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!